Hey y'all, Wackywormer here with episode 5 of my HermitPack Let's Play series. Last episode you saw where we upgraded our Mekanism power production. We went from the heat generator, which was a very inefficient and resource intensive way of converting furnace fuels to RF. We upgraded that into the biogenerator, which takes this biofuel item here and converts it into energy at a rate of 280 RF per tick, which is pretty respectable. And it does so by converting plant matter such as wheat, seeds, saplings, carrots, potatoes, things like that into biofuel. So you can see we're producing a pretty decent amount of biofuel. We could probably even support a second generator if we needed to. But that's going to be for next episode. This episode, we're going to talk about all of this new stuff here. And this is all part of Mekanism's ore tripling process, and I'm going to go over it with you. It was a little too lengthy to show you the actual buildup of it, and it's going to be a little bit easier to explain how it's hooked up and all that kind of stuff. But before I do that, I want to go over quickly the upgrades to my Tinker's pickaxe here. So last time y'all saw me, I had a steel pickaxe. If we take a look at the materials in U book here, we take a look at steel as a head modifier or a head material. We can see that with steel we can mine obsidian. Once we get obsidian, we can use that. Obsidian can mine all things in the mod pack, essentially, all the way up to cobalt, which is at the very top of the list of mineable things. So that gated us into obsidian and allowed us to go ahead and mine everything that we needed to mine. However, we didn't actually have to replace the head of our pick with obsidian. We could craft one of these sharpening kits, and that's just a stencil you craft in the stencil chest, stencil table, I mean. But you craft one of these sharpening kits, and whatever material you make this out of, it applies that mining level to the tool that you apply this to. So I crafted one of these out of obsidian. I applied it to my steel pickaxe, and even though I still had a steel pickaxe head, I could mine all the way up to cobalt with that. And then what that did was allow me to go to the nether and get cobalt and ardite, which once you smelt both of those in here in the smeltery, they'll combine to form the alloy Manyullyn. And I got 3 ingots of that from one block of ore each, and then I replaced my pickaxe head with that. So I've got a very solid pickaxe, and it's definitely not, N tier pickaxe by any means, but it's certainly pretty solid, and I'm proud of it and having a lot of fun with it. So onto our Mekanism ore tripling process. I promise it's more simple than it looks here. The most complicated part about honestly any Mekanism build, if you ask me, is just figuring out where to put all of the wires and transport pipes and cables and all that good stuff. The machine part, I mean, it's more complex than your average mod, but it's certainly doable. So to go over the process here, these 4 machines right here make up the actual processing line for the ore tripling. We start down here with what's called the Purification Chamber. This machine is going to take in both oxygen and the ore blocks that we mine and convert those into clumps. And it's going to do that at a rate of 3 to 1. So this is where all of the tripling itself happens here. So for every 1 ore we process through here, we're going to get 3 clumps out of it. Those clumps are going to feed up into the machine above it, which is a crusher. This is the same machine that's converting our plant matter over there into biofuel, but this is going to convert those clumps into dirty dust, and that's just a 1-to-1 ratio because all of our tripling has already happened. Once we get that dirty dust, we push it over here into the enrichment chamber. That's going to take that dirty dust and convert it into regular dust. And then finally we push that regular dust down here into the energized smelter, and that just smelts it into the ingots and finishes out that process for us. And then finally that machine pushes out here into this chest. So that's the main line of processing that's happening here. Now you'll notice at the very beginning I said that this machine right here took the ore along with oxygen. We had to have a way to produce oxygen in order to supply it here. And the way we do that is through a machine called an Electrolytic Separator. Now this is pretty cool because this is actually a scientific process. Electrolysis is the process of running an electrical current through water and separating water into its molecular components. So when we run this machine right here, we're actually going to split, the H2O into hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen is obviously the part of this that we most require, so we're going to pipe that oxygen over into the machine here that needs it. But it's interesting that we get hydrogen out of here as well, because hydrogen then becomes, you could call it an energy source, I guess. The Mekanism wiki actually calls it an energy carrier, and I think that's a pretty good description. If you're familiar with scientific principles like the conservation of energy, you know that the amount of energy it takes to split this up into hydrogen and oxygen is roughly the same amount of energy that you would get out of it from combustion, not accounting for any losses or anything like that. And so that's exactly what happens here, is once we get this hydrogen out of here, we'll pipe it over to this gas burning generator, and we're not actually going to net gain any energy out of this, but this generator here is going to directly compensate the power consumption of this machine here. So they're completely canceling each other out essentially. And so what happens is now our biofuel generator there is carrying everything it used to carry. It was already carrying these two machines as well right here, because this was part of the ore doubling process, but now it's carrying an additional two machines here, and it does so fairly well. It's definitely struggling during high process times. We're going to have to do some upgrades on that, but that's going to come into the future because I have a decent supply of fuels at this point, and there's a few other things I want to do first. So next episode, we're actually going to automate the farming process. So we're going to explore Botania a little bit. We're going to explore the Cyclic mod, and that's going to get us the tools we need to automate our farming up there and to automatically pipe down the different consumables or plant matter or whatever that are going to be pushed into this crusher. And we may even be able to support a second biogenerator, and probably will, I imagine, because we're sitting on a pretty good bit of biofuel already. Um, so yeah, that's everything that went on. One other thing I didn't explain. First of all, we have one new pipe from Mekanism in here. This is the pressurized pipe that's carrying this gas along. So that's a pretty simple recipe. It's just two steel with a piece of glass in between them, a block of glass. So that's nice and easy to make. The second thing we had to make, which was a little more complicated, was this reservoir right here from End.io. If I plop down this machine right here, this is the alloy smelter from End.io, which is what we needed to make it. So this right here is a 2x2 multi-block, and once you plop down all four of those pieces, you can then put 2 buckets of water in it. And once you put those 2 buckets of water in it, it becomes an infinite water source. Not only that, if you take the End.io wrench, you can right click on any one of those blocks and trigger it to push its water into an adjacent inventory. So this machine right here doesn't need any pipe or anything. It doesn't need a pump or anything like that to extract from this reservoir. It's actually receiving it just by sitting on top of it. So that saved us a little bit more power consumption and stuff like that. So that was a big savior. This alloy smelter here is really nice. It's what's used to make End.io alloys. We actually used it to put nether quartz in here, and it smelted it into fused quartz glass, which is the main component in the recipe for this reservoir here, and that's why I had to build it. But yeah, that's all for the episode. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you have any comments, hints, tips, things I missed, things that need better explaining, just leave them in the comment section below. And I will see y'all in the next episode.